I die with a joyful heart in the knowledge of our infinite achievements and of a contribution unique in the history that bears my name.
In 1873, an Austrian man with a long mustache named Alois Hitler married a rich old lady named Anna Glassel. They recruit a servant called Franziska Matzelsberger. But after a years, he falls in love with her, so he left his wife and went to live with his lover. At that time, the church still interfered with the laws of the state, which did not allow divorce, so Alois waited for his wife to die so he could marry his mistress. After he married her, they had 2 children, but then his new wife got sick. So he recruited his young cousin Clara, which is the mother of... Hitler is the 4th kid of Alois and Clara. He had 3 siblings, but they all died before he was born, which made his mother spoiled and take great care of him. But then the family had 2 more kids. Hitler's family kept moving from one city to another, which made Hitler attend 5 different schools. Hitler was very attached to her, just as she was attached to him, because his father was violent and strict, and therefore he used to punish him severely. At the beginning of his school years, he was a troublemaker. He was caught smoking so many times, and he used to provoke the Austrians with his ideas that says Austria should be part of a great Germany. But he was an excellent student and was loved by others playing war games with them. But then, something happened which changes Hitler's life. His 6-year-old brother Edmund, whom he loved a lot, died. Hitler's behaviors changed from troublemaking to talking to trees and staring at the stars in the late night, and also, he no longer cares about religion. At school, Hitler's grades began to decline. He failed in most of the subjects, such as French and English. Meanwhile, he discovered that he had a talent which was drawing. He became a dreamer. And he used to spend a lot of time at the opera with his friend August Kubizek in order to listen to his favorite musician Richard Wagner. At the age of 18, he said goodbye to his mother because he went to Vienna in order to take the drawing exam at the art school, but he failed soon after he returned home. At this time, his mother got sick, so he stayed with her to take care of her, but soon after she died, leaving young Hitler alone and sad. Hitler then returned to Vienna hoping to find another opportunity to become a painter, but was rejected again, leaving him on the street without a family or a home. He started selling postcards to earn a little bit of money so he can go to the opera, and also he found a place to live in homeless shelters. In Vienna, Hitler's extreme ideologies began to take shape, as Vienna was full of anti-Semites, the most prominent of whom was the mayor of the city. Also, the majority of his customers were Jews, who would undercut him on the price of the postcards, buying them for almost free, and reselling them for a much higher price. He started believing in the racial pyramid and the idea that there are many races and constant struggle with one another. At the top of the pyramid is the Aryan race, and in the bottom of it are Jews. When he was 24 years old, he was called to do the military service, so he left Vienna for Munich to avoid it. In Munich, he remained as homeless until something huge happened. In 1914, the First World War started. Hitler volunteered for the German army. At first, he was refused because he didn't have fighting skills, but Germany needed soldiers, so they accepted him. And he showed great courage, so he was awarded the Iron Cross. He was also very lucky because he survived several bomb attacks, but was once hit by a British artillery and had to go to military hospital. By the way, during the war, Hitler's mustache was too long, so his commander ordered him to shave it in half so he can wear a gas mask, and after the war ended, he continued to shave it like this because he considered the war period to be the best days of his life. Then he returned to the front after he recovered. But he was hit again in the eye with gas, which caused him to lose his sight. In the hospital, Hitler learned of Germany's surrender. In this treaty, the Allies humiliate Germany, the thing that made Hitler very angry. He blamed the Jews and the communists for that, because in his opinion, they were the ones who caused the defeat by raising slogans and doing a revolution to end the war. After the end of the war, Germany lost 13% of its territory as well as its colonies. Inflation hit the country, causing the currency to fall, and more importantly, it prevented Germany from having a strong army, which made the Germans feel humiliated. They witnessed the destruction of their air force. and the bombing of their warships, and the reduction of the army to 100,000 soldiers, which made millions of former soldiers unemployed, and one of whom was Hitler. After the war, life in Germany changed radically. Famine struck the Germans and the number of unemployed increased day by day, to the point that if you to buy an egg, you will need billions of German marks, which led the communists to revolt. The government became concerned and assigned Hitler, who had become an informer in the army, the task of spying on every party that could cause a communist threat. One day, he went to spy on the German Workers' Party because he thought they were communists. But after hearing their speeches, he discovered that they were not communists, but rather right extremists. And he was impressed by their ideas just as they were impressed by his talent for speech, so he left the army and joined them to become their leader. And then, he renamed the party to National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Hitler promised the German people to cancel the Treaty of Versailles and reunify the Germans in what is known as the Third Reich. He also said that only the Aryans had the right to be citizens, in reference to making Jews and Gypsies second-class citizens. At that time, each party in Germany had its own army, so Hitler decided to establish the SA forces with brown cloaks to protect party meetings and fight with other parties, and the result was continuous conflict between them and the communists in the streets throughout the 20s and early 30s. However, the Germans' miserable situation got worse after Jewish businessmen closed their factories and imported prostitutes and drugs, and spread them among the Germans in order to take what little money the Germans were earning. Meanwhile, the Germans decided to rebel and not pay reparations to the West, so France and Belgium occupied the industrial Ruhr region and treated the people of the region brutally. This incident showed the weakness of the government, which caught Hitler's attention. So in 1923, inspired by Mussolini, he carried out a coup in Munich and headed to Berlin, hoping that the police would join him, but they did not. In court, Hitler was charged with several charges that carried the death penalty, but due to his glorious history in the army, in addition to his moving speech to the judges, he was sentenced to only 5 years, of which he spent only 1 year in prison, which allowed him to write his book Mein Kampf, which means My Struggle. When we say prison, it was not a prison as you think, but rather more like a hotel room. After his release from prison, Hitler returned to politics. He ran in one election after another, but he lost until 1929 when something happened that turned the world's economies upside down. In 1929, the Wall Street Stock Exchange collapsed, which affected the whole world, especially Germany. Let's go back a little. After Germany was unable to pay its debt, it sought help from America and borrowed large sums of money from it. However, after the stock market collapsed, America demanded its money back, which put Germany in trouble. After this event, the Germans were divided into two groups: the extreme right led by Hitler and the extreme left led by the communists. Election after election, the Nazi Party became the first party in the country, so he asked President Hindenburg to make him Chancellor of Germany. But Hindenburg refused because he believed that Hitler was extremely racist. But after incitement from some figures like von Papen, the president agreed to it. Hitler was happy but not satisfied with what he had achieved. But after a while, Hitler received a gift from heaven. The parliament building Reichstag burned down at night. Hitler blamed the communists for it, so the president allowed him to arrest the communists and Hitler's political opponents, so they were sent to the first concentration camp in Dachau. At that time, the president Hindenburg died, leaving Hitler free space to become the dictator of Germany. With his opponents in concentration camps and the SA forces controlling the streets, Hitler finally became dictator 2 months after being appointed Chancellor of Germany. He asked Parliament to sign a paper granting him freedom to do whatever he wants for 4 years, but after a while he faced a huge problem that could cause a civil war. Hey, do you want to support the channel and at the same time you get some benefits like writing your name in the beginning and early access to the videos that I make? We want to inform you that we have opened the feature of membership and super thanks. If you want to support the channel in order for this content to continue, we invite you to join, the link in the description. Thank you. The commander of the SA forces, Ernst Röhm, wanted the SA soldiers to replace the army. This angered the army and generals, so they refused. And in order to gain the support of the army, Hitler decided to get rid of his friend Röhm. On the night of June 30th, 1934, Röhm and a group of people who had information about Hitler's past and all political opponents were killed in what is known as the Night of the Long Knives. Hitler, then, began to implement his racist theories. In America, the Jews ordered the world to boycott German goods. In response, Hitler ordered Germans not to buy from Jewish stores, some of which were destroyed and Jewish synagogues burned in what is known as Night of Broken Glass. He also told his people that he wanted to create a new race free of defects, so he began arresting homosexuals and the disabled people, and sending women to camps to give birth to many German children who would die in the last days of World War II in what became known as the Hitler's Youth. When their parents objected to this, they were arrested because Hitler had banned freedom of speech. Despite these brutal actions, he made many good changes for his people and his country. He eliminated unemployment after establishing a road network and revived the German industry with many companies such as Volkswagen and Mercedes. As for the military, he violated the Treaty of Versailles and rearmed the army, which now numbers around 5 million soldiers, and established the terrifying Air Force Luftwaffe. All this enabled Hitler to occupy Europe, starting with Austria, then Czechoslovakia, then Poland, then Denmark, Norway, then the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, France, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Greece, until he reached the Soviet Union, which he managed to push to Moscow. Then they pushed him back to Berlin, coinciding with the Allied landings in Sicily and Normandy. In Berlin, in his headquarters, Führer Bunker, Hitler married his mistress Eva Braun and ended his life by committing suicide with a bullet to the head for fear of being captured. Wait, there is another story about his death. It is said that he sailed across the Atlantic by submarine towards Argentina in order to continue his life there. He had shaved his funny mustache and had 3 children with him, according to some eyewitnesses there.
It is untrue that I or anyone else in Germany wanted war. It was provoked solely by the Jews.